we pulled together a meeting for some pastors that we met into a new community that's still right here on the border in Haiti, and we got involved with them to a degree where we inspired them into wanting to change some of the things that were going on in their community. The concept that we want to bring out is we want to stop child trafficking. We want to have parents to have the opportunity to keep their kids at home, and the very best way to do that is for when parents can afford to have their kids at home, right? But there are resources that are going unutilized, that are next to them, that are going underutilized or unnoticed. And so the inspiration that came to the community was, hey, we need to combine our efforts. We need to, we have intelligence, we have some skills, and we need to try to mesh those together in a way that makes our community more powerful. And we're not doing that because we really don't rely on one another. We don't trust each other. We don't have any way of putting our confidence in our neighbor. And so this meeting that we pulled together with these pastors and such, they were inspired by that. They said, we don't want to have resources around us that go unutilized. We want to take advantage of some of these things so we can live better. We have a better way of raising our kids. We have a better way of bringing them to God. We have a better way of feeding them. We have a better way of educating them, and then they can contribute better to the community. So it's a long process, but this might be our kickoff space. We can start talking to each other. We can start being with each other. Out of the 5 men that are in this group, the one non-pastor was the one that had access to WhatsApp, and he pulled together the three of the other guys. But then there was another pastor that's visiting from Port-au-Prince, and that is really kind of a high authority in the area. He was following along and just decided to show up, and it was just like this big prize. So we got to the point where he said, well, what are we going to do now? What are the steps that we can take? There's input that's coming from the community, and there is our own culture that we're developing that's also holding us hostage. How do we get to a way to make those two jive so that we can change things? And they started to see that there were players inside their own community that they started to identify between themselves that would be valuable to join in the conversation. And so they said, well, I believe now that what we're promoting is worthy. So there are community outreach functions that have been going on. So, some of them surrounding money, and that's kind of one of the ways that we've found success in Simeon's community, is that they were starting to put together a way to work with money and support each other and create wealth for each other by pooling their funds. This is going to be completely different from that. The way that Pastor Elomi wants to do this, he says, I want people to learn how to reflect on what's going on around them. And they said, let's just start holding classes where we can teach people how to reflect on the reality of what's going on around them. We want them to change who they are inside their heart. We don't want them to be motivated by money. We don't want them to be motivated by political power or dominion over someone else or something else. They just want them to make the right choices because they're humans that live here on this planet and they want to treat it properly. So again, it comes back to what Joel Salatin taught us back on the farm at Polyface. It truly is the farmer that's on the land. When the farmer takes care of what he's been given as his stewardship, that stewardship will give him success and abundance, right? The person that's on the land has to be the one that decides how to pool the resources, how to manage the resources so that they last for a longer period of time. Now that has to do with these trees that are around me. It has to do with the way that these animals are treated. It has to do with the way that they interact with each other on the streets. And those things are the ones that the farmer has to decide he's going to focus on. So in this particular instance, instead of it being focused on a money lending scheme where there's opportunity for them to make profit off of the money that they're pooling together, they're going to pool together what he calls their sensibility. So instead of me throwing my trash on the ground, I'm going to say, you know what, it's probably not going to be good for the future if I just continue to throw my trash on the ground. I need to find a better way of managing this trash. So that's the sensibility he's talking about. And he's talking about pulling in, multiple people. So each one of these communities is going to have their center where they're going to be able to create. Now, this pastor that came in from Port-au-Prince, that is kind of the liaison between the government and this area, he has said, well, we need to start a rebellion. He says the only way to get this to change is to get the government to put their money behind us. So he started down this path. He said, well, we're going to need to start cutting down trees. We're going to need to start the forest on fire. We need to get all eyes up here so that they know that we're not ready to continue in this way, because really we're suffering because we can't get our products to market. We have roads that are horrible and we can't get our products down there to be sold. And then when we get down there, the roads are all torn up because of the way that the gangs are treating the streets. He says, we need to put ourselves on the map. And then that's when I went ahead and put on some brakes. And then the other pastor that was there just said, I don't know if I can be involved with this. I don't know if I can go start the forest on fire. And the guy's like, I can. I can. I'm like, okay. So in this meeting, we had to get him out of the crazy tree and say, we want change, but we don't want to do it in such a way that we're going to harm ourselves, you know? And so as he's writing his notes and he's coming down, he's like, you know, I feel like then, you know, maybe there's another way for us to get these people that are in the government in the lower layers that could combine and get their names on a roster that will allow us to have some time to promote ourselves, right? And so all of these things, these solutions are coming from the people. They have to come up with their own solutions. They have to come up with their own way of making this better. And so it started the conversation. So now this pastor who wanted to start the forest fire is going to also come to the meeting that's happening next month. And with that involvement, is there a petition that's going to be signed? Maybe. You know, is there classes that are going to teach the people how the resources are going to be better utilized? Maybe, right? But each one of them has a portion in compost. Each one of them has a portion in transportation. They said to me, frankly, they said, we don't know how to get our product to market without it getting all trashed. And we keep doing exactly what we've been doing, and we keep getting the same result, which is mushed up food. So instead of putting their product into a container or some sort of a box that will allow it to be supported by the container, they put it into a bag that gets stepped on, and then people sit on it on the way. It gets left out in the sun, and then when they get there, their products are diminished. And so when they'll send 16 bags down, only 8 of them are sellable. And then, you know, so the work went in, and the money they paid to have the bug spray put on it, or the weeds pulled, all the stuff that they put in there to make it go, it was diminished by half. And they just said, you know what, this just must be what God intended. And so I said, hey, you know, frankly, there is a way of shipping cabbage so that it doesn't have to be stepped on. There's another way of doing it. Really, what is it? It's called boxes. You got to put it in boxes or drums instead of bags. They're like, really? Do you think that would work? And as we're standing there, there's a guy with a big bag, you know, standing next to him, taking a cabbage head and just boom, 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 just jamming them into the bag. It's like, do you think that's good for the cabbage? Well, we don't know. We don't know if it's good for the cabbage. Okay, so what happens when you take your bags off the truck in Port-au-Prince? Well, they're all trashed. They're all smashed down. They're all mushy. Is it okay? So you and I, we take a head of cabbage and start, smashing it. Do you think it makes it stronger, or do you think it makes it get mushy? Well, it gets mushy. Okay, so when you put that in there with all of its force and you jam it in there and then you jam it down and then you put it on the back of the truck and you stack thousands of pounds of things on top of it, and people step on it all day, and then they step on it 3 or 4 times, unloading things and loading things, and then when you pull it out, that's why it's mushy. Wow, I never thought of that. We've just been doing this forever. So why would we change? Well, the change is now you're saying, hey, we have resources that are going underutilized, and we can't continue to do it this way. As a group, we're going to decide to change the way we're doing it so that we can get more benefit from the work that we already do. So it's not a huge change, but it's just a simple realization that we can do it a tiny bit different. And that's all the change that we're asking for. And so now, instead of getting 50% of the benefit that comes from raising a field of cabbage, you're going to get 80% or 91%. That added money, that added capital can come back home and include food that you put on the table. It can include the way that your kids are going to school, and it changes the way the entire culture works. All right, so the end result, everything that we're looking for, is to inspire our brother and sister into action. Our goal is to continue meeting with them, continue encouraging them, because me being in the meeting, had I not shown up, the meeting would not have taken place, right? They would have just said, hey, Lance didn't show up, or Mergens didn't show up, and better luck next time. I guess God doesn't really care for us to do anything different. But because I was there, they were able to have this kind of fixture, this piece that they get focused on, and they say, all right, now what is it that you were saying again? Tell us again what it is that you mean. And we're going to encourage them to grow themselves. We'll give them ideas. We'll share with them our insight. Could somebody come here and package cabbage? They absolutely could. Maybe they could prepare it here. They could put a factory for cabbage prep and ship it in bags and have it refrigerated from here. However, that's an influx of money. We're not ready to send $10 million down here to do that. We're going to start with what we've got, and we're going to build to where they can be there. And so we'll continue to lead them along. We'll continue to give them the support that they require, and then help them grow themselves into prosperity. And that's all we can do. That's all we need.